What's up, guys? This is the Honest Outlaw here, and today we are going to be talking about the Taurus TX22. Before I do that, I want to mention my patron supporters. Thank you guys very much. Because of you, the channel keeps on going. Because of that, we try to give back a little bit by doing patron exclusive content. If you're a patron supporter of mine and you need a question answered, just send me a direct message. I try to respond to all those. As the channel gets bigger, it's more and more difficult for me to respond to comments and Instagram messages, and I completely stopped responding to Facebook messages altogether, just simply because there's so many messages that I just don't have time. So I'm trying to prioritize here, and I'm answering patron messages, and I'm trying to get Instagram messages when I can. If you want to be a patron supporter, all you got to do is go to the description and click the link. Also in the description is a link to a local shelter that I really try to support. It's a youth shelter in Ames, Iowa, and if you had to pick between the two, make sure and donate to the shelter instead. And finally, big thanks to Alexander's Armory. I really appreciate those guys. They sent this pistol out for me to review, so thanks again. Back to the gun. What is the Taurus TX22? Well, it is kind of a sleeper hit, in my opinion. One of the better guns that I've tried in 2020. The Taurus TX22 is a 22 long rifle semi-automatic pistol. It has a striker-fired action with a magazine release, as you see right there, that is swappable. Takes a little bit to swap it, but you can swap it. It has a single-sided slide release right there, and a ambidextrous safety. It's a little bit diminutive, in my opinion, but you can operate it with both hands, which is really nice. It's got front slide serrations, comes with a pretty decent grip with pretty decent texture. It's got a good undercut and a Picatinny rail if you want to add a light or laser or something like that. It has 3-dot sights with an adjustable rear to help you get that zero that you're looking for, which is, in my opinion, pretty beneficial, as long as they're reliable, which they seem to be. 2 magazines. Now, the magazines are actually pretty cool by comparison to something like a G44 magazine, as you can see right here. Now, the G44 magazine only holds 10 rounds, whereas the Taurus TX22 magazine here is actually staggered, kind of similar to the P365, so they're able to fit a full 16 rounds in there with one in the tube, making the capacity for the Taurus TX22 a lot higher than your average 22 pistol like your Glock or even your Smith & Wesson. It's also available in a couple different colors, from black to tan to, I believe, OD green. There might be a few more in there as well. We did shoot 1,000 rounds for the Taurus TX22, which is actually a little bit more cost effective than a 22 than it is a standard 9mm, and it's a little bit easier to do overall. I wish we had a couple more mags than just 2, but that's what it comes with. And for the price of this gun, which we'll get to here in a little bit, that's actually pretty good. The reliability of the Taurus TX22 was, again, pretty good. It had 3 failures in 1,000 rounds, and that was a lot of Remington Golden Bullet, and all 3 failures were related to that ammunition. I have a ton of Remington Golden Bullet, something like 10 or 15,000 rounds of it, so I'm going to use it when I can and when the gun actually operates it, because Remington Golden Bullet can be a little bit hit or miss, a lot like a lot of 22 ammunition with a lot of different 22 rifles and pistols, because 22 is a straight-walled cartridge and because it has a rim-fire design. It's just a little less reliable overall as an ammunition than a centerfire cartridge would be. And put that together with traditionally 22 pistols don't have the same quality control or the same manufacturing because they're meant to be a budget firearm, you generally have an issue getting reliable 22 rifles or pistols. Now, there are some that are legendary, like the 1022, but even the 1022 I've had several malfunctions with, ammo related or not. So for this to have only 3 malfunctions out of 1,000 rounds, in my opinion, especially with bulk ammo like Remington Golden Bullet, that's extremely impressive. On top of that, we did shoot some CCI supersonic, and it had no problems with that, as it should. CCI is probably the highest quality 22 ammo that you're going to find at your local store. So if your 22 doesn't run that, you should get a new 22. So it ran CCI really well, it ran Federal really well, and it ran Winchester, I forget, 36 grain, maybe, really well also. So we tried 4 different types of ammunition. One of those was a hollow point. As far as the accuracy goes, the gun was pretty impressive. Again, for the price tag, I was expecting a less accurate pistol. There's a couple things that go into accuracy. Now, one of those is going to be trigger, which we'll get to first. The trigger on the Taurus TX22 is extremely impressive for what it is. It feels like a PPQ. No joke. Like, this is one of the best striker fired triggers I've ever felt. And the fact that this is in a $200-ish polymer frame striker fired 22 rimfire is crazy. That trigger's so good. And the grip feels so good too. The gun feels excellent in your hand. And on top of that, the sights aren't really that bad either. It's got a 4-inch barrel. This gun weighs 17 ounces. I forgot to mention that, with a 4-inch barrel. It doesn't have a lot of sight radius, but it does have some decent sights. They aren't great, but they are pretty good, and they are adjustable for your point of aim, and that is a good thing because you're probably going to have to adjust them slightly from when it comes from the manufacturer. So the trigger is excellent, and the other thing the trigger gives you is speed. So just not accuracy, but speed with the Taurus TX22 is pretty awesome because, as you know, 22 doesn't recoil very much, so you don't need a whole lot of recoil control to go fast. All that you really need is a fast trigger finger, and the fact that this trigger not only has a relatively short break right there, it's got a really short reset, and it's a very powerful reset as well. It actually helps assist your finger come out and pull the trigger again, making the gun shoot really quickly. And for a 22, that's just a lot of fun. Now we'll get into the ergonomics, which I touched on a little bit, but again, extremely impressive. The ergonomics on this pistol are so good, I'd really like Taurus to come out with a 9mm version of this pistol if they haven't already. Maybe there is one out that I don't know about. Not only does it come with an accessory rail, but it actually has a rather large trigger guard. So for guys like me who have to shoot with glove hands frequently, I shoot all through the winter, and I live in Iowa, so about 6 months out of the year I'm shooting with glove hands. On top of that, the trigger undercut is extremely impressive. Glock could really take a note from this gun. And the texture ain't bad, and on top of that, the grip feels really good as well. It feels a lot like the Walther PPQ or the HK VP9, which in my opinion has one of the most comfortable grips. Now the only thing that's really lacking from the VP9 at least is the side panels and the back straps, but the gun is so comfortable, at least for me, that I don't need those. I would do away with this manual safety because if I'm going to have a safety, I like to have it a part of the gun, like a 1911. Like when you come up with a 1911, you already rest your thumb there, so you know that's where it's going, so you automatically take that safety off if you're used to that battery of arms. I don't like safeties on striker-fired guns that look and feel like an afterthought, like they threw it on there just because they needed it on there for import laws or whatever it may be. Some police department required it or whatever. It doesn't feel like it was a part of the gun to begin with, and it's not easy to ride that. It feels like your thumb wants to be here away from the safety. So that would lead me to believe if you were going to draw this pistol, your thumb would naturally go there instead of swipe off the safety, which I don't like. So overall, I would appreciate it if they came out with a model where this was removed. However, as far as 22s go, since you're not going to be using it for self-defense very much, it's fine where it is, and honestly, throughout the testing, I completely ignored it. Trigger's amazing. The magazine release is something I can harp on a little bit here. If this was a more competition-style-oriented pistol, I'd be a little more concerned, but since it's a 22, it's no big deal. It's something I can't just reach down and hit very well. Oftentimes, I found myself actually reaching over and pressing in, which is something I normally don't have to do, but on this pistol I did, because as you can see there, the magazine release doesn't stick out from the gun at all, which is, you know, a pro if you're into that, but for me, I like a little bigger magazine release. No big deal though, easily overcome. Picatinny rail worked really well. It is a true Picatinny rail, unlike the Glock accessory rail, so you can take whatever light or laser you're running off your carbine, and you can throw it right on there if you so choose. The slide serrations are functional, which is pretty cool. I don't know why you need those on a 22, but it does feel awful nice. If you want to get your John Wick on, you can go up there and press check it or whatever you want to do. Sometimes it is kind of nice to press check a 22 because you might have a jam in there you need to look at, so you're probably going to use all the manipulating surfaces that you can get your hands on. Now, one thing I don't like about it so much, let's get the Glock 44 over here. Now with the Glock 44, it's a good thing the Glock 44 has it, and we'll get into that in a second. As you can see here, the chamber is almost completely obscured on the Taurus TX22, which is something I don't like, because 22s, as reliable as this one may be, still have malfunctions. So the ability to clear those quickly is really nice. And if you have a really bad one, like a double feed or something like that, with a closed up chamber like this, you're gonna have a really hard time getting it out. And I would know because it happened. And I had a hard time getting my little pocket knife in there and pulling those rounds out. Adversely, the Glock 44 is a whole lot less reliable. And we'll get into that in the Glock 44 review, but it is a little bit easier to clear those malfunctions because you have that wide open area to do so. As far as accessories and availability go, the Taurus TX22 can be found at just about any gun store. I've seen them at a lot of random gun stores in Iowa, and Iowa's fairly remote, so I'd have to assume they're easy to find in larger cities as well. Accessories, I know that you can find sites for them. Backup magazines are available, but a little bit more difficult to find, but they are relatively cheap. I think I found some for around the $20 range, making them easy to get a hold of. As far as holsters go, I'm not sure. I didn't look, but I'm sure if you type in TX22 holster on eBay, you'll probably come up with at least somebody who made one in their garage. So that's a good way to go if you can't find any holsters. People always ask me where I find them. Anywhere I can. There's a lot of holsters that you can't get a hold of. Sometimes I go to Red Hill Tactical. Sometimes I go to T-Rex Arms. There's so many holster makers out there, and most of them are quality. And if not, it's nothing a Dremel won't fix if you buy a Kydex holster. So overall, I would say I cannot give this gun a higher score. This gun's a 10. For $200+, somewhere between $200 and $300, the fact that it runs almost every ammunition that I have, it has a 16-round magazine capacity, 0 recoil, amazing trigger, good ergonomics. What more can I say? It might be my favorite 22 pistol that I have. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.